Hi, welcome back to Psych Alchemy. And today I wanted to discuss the different types of empathy. So, everyone has empathy. Uh, Sometimes I work as a therapist, and sometimes I'll hear other therapists talk about someone lacks empathy or doesn't have empathy. Uh, but what oftentimes people are talking about are a very particular kind of empathy. So I wanted to go over a few kinds of empathy and explain how they function and their pros and cons, and help to illuminate the understanding that some people are born kind of naturally wired to empathy, but empathy can be learned. Everything can be learned. And so, if there's a certain type that you think would be really beneficial to your life or your circumstances, I really encourage you to research more and seek out, um, a teacher or a therapist or some kind of healer that can help you develop that empathy within you, because everyone has the seeds for all of these types of empathy. So the first type is cognitive empathy. And so with cognitive empathy, we have a high level of emotional intelligence, and we're able to understand um, that both me and others have separate emotional experiences. And this is really important because when we don't understand that others have separate emotional experiences, we often become harmed in our relationships because we generalize our inner experience. And then when someone is acting in a way that we don't like, we're thinking how we would feel if we were to act out that way. And then we often get hurt because, for example, let's say someone, it's very easy for them to set boundaries, but it's not for us. So when someone sets boundaries, if we're not able to have this cognitive empathy, we might think, if I were to set boundaries, I would have to be so mad and so done with this person, and that must be where they are, which isn't true. And we might then become personally wounded or create a conflict that was not necessary. So, cognitive empathy is just the ability to look at things from a different perspective. Um, in psychology, um, people that are like antisocial or psychopathic um, actually have a lot of cognitive empathy. So often I'll hear mental health practitioners say they have no empathy. They have tons of cognitive empathy. That's how they're able to manipulate people. So this is called cold cognitive empathy. It's where it lacks the compassion. And so then our understanding of self and others is used to harm. So we can take it different ways depending on our aspiration, but I hope that you can aspire for a more positive, warm kind of cognitive empathy. So the next is affective empathy, and this is a type of empathy where you have some cognitive ability, but you're able to absorb the feelings of people around you. So this is where you're able to feel what others are feeling emotionally, and you're able to kind of hone in or read the vibe of the room. So affective empathy is really helpful, because if we develop that, we kind of naturally put the needs of others in front of us. Um, Without it being heavy or task oriented or full of resentment, the more we can hone our affective empathy, because um, if we're hurting, naturally we want to shift that. So if we have a lot of affective empathy when we see others hurting, we naturally want to benefit them because we're feeling it too, and we want to get rid of that feeling, if that makes sense. So it's a very practical empathy, it's a very powerful empathy. So the next is compassionate empathy. And this is probably the most helpful of all of the empathies, because when we really hold compassion, I mean, of course, there's layers to it, it pushes us to action. It pushes us to change. It pushes us to um, do something. And so, compassionate empaths not only have the affective empathy, but then they have this added piece of where they actually start to take action and make shifts and changes for others because of feeling their suffering. So physical empaths are um, like I'm a physical empath, so like it's really hard for me to watch um, horror movies because when people are getting injured, my body actually hurts. So physical empathy is you're attuned to other people's physical sensations and you absorb them into your own body. And so this could also be like when women get pregnant and the significant other starts to experience pregnancy symptom, like not symptoms, but like the pains. That would be physical empathy. So the next is intuitive empathy, and this is someone who can pick up on unspoken information that goes beyond emotions. So they can pick up kind of patterns in people without talking to them. They can pick up on um, states of mind. It's a little bit more. You have to be attuned to energy and subconscious powers patterns for intuitive empathy. So the next is plant empathy. So some people, we call them green thumbs, actually have a really strong connection or sensitivity to the energy of plants, and so they're able to, for example, keep them alive, keep them thriving because they have this plant empathy. And then there's animal empathy. So if there's some people who, of course, most people love animals, but there's some people who are very in tune with animals. They know if an animal's dangerous. They know if it's scared. They know if it's sick. They can tell by just because of the kind of energetic or empathic connection. And the final is earth empathy. And so this is similar to plants and animals, but it's where you're really in tune with nature. So this might be someone who can like tell when a storm's coming, even though there's no clouds in the sky, or they can tell just changes in the planet, the Earth element. So I hope that's helpful to help you understand that empathy is big and there's lots of types. They're all great, and we can enhance whichever one we want. But it can help us to kind of identify which kind. And if there's some where you struggle, I encourage you to just enhance the ones where you don't. Because the more empathic we get in other areas, it kind of builds and lends to empathy, other types of empathy. So thank you. Have a good week.